Today on the Talent Cast, I play the role of Christmas, the ghost of Christmas past and the ghost of Christmas present. I didn't have much of an opening for this one. Let's talk about your talent community in email. Howdy! Welcome to The Talent Cast, where we talk about the new world of talent acquisition and recruitment marketing. I, am your host, James Ellis. I was bitten by a radioactive recruiter once and discovered I had strange new powers, and thus we are here. This podcast is not sponsored or supported by anyone whatsoever. We've instituted a 100% no pitching rule. We're here to learn, teach, and discuss so we can all become better recruitment marketing thinkers. I'm not here to sell you anything. If you like this podcast, and I really hope you do, tell the world on LinkedIn and Twitter and any other place you're professionally social. I'm pretty sure your friends don't care. You can always review us on iTunes or Google Play. We really appreciate that. As always, if you have comments, questions, topic suggestions, if you would like me to discuss your particular problem, if you know someone I should interview, reach out to me on the Twitter. It's The War for Talent. That's right, The War for Talent. Or just go to our website. We're at thetalentcast.com, thetalentcast.com. Otherwise, here we go. Hope you enjoy. Hi. Worst intro ever. Hi, I'm James Ellis. Thanks for joining me here in the bunker, sometimes referred to as a laptop. So I want to talk about something you probably haven't put much thought into in a very, very long time. Probably in a very, very, very long time. I want to talk about your talent community because I think, frankly, most of the companies I've interacted with and talked to and worked with, the talent community was something they thought of 4 or 5 years ago. They launched, maybe they bought some software, maybe they kind of cobbled something together, maybe they went really big and decided to go full out and built something out. They launched it and it just kind of was there and then they kind of wandered away. And that's fine. I mean, hey, some tactics work, some tactics don't, no big deal. But I think what's happening, of course, it's New Year and it's January and everybody wants to do new cool things and everyone wants to talk about Facebook Live and everybody wants to talk about, Facebook jobs and Facebook this and Snapchat. God, can't forget Snapchat, can you? Everybody wants to talk about the cool and new sexy stuff and stuff that's not proven, stuff that they're not set up for, stuff that they don't have the resources for, stuff that they've never really done before, but because they look around and they go, that's cool, or my competition's doing it, or I think my competition's thinking about doing it, I got to get there first, which is just the worst way to go about thinking about this sort of thing. They forgot, because of all that new, cool, sexy, shiny, flashing, excellent, neat, technique stuff, they forget about email. They forget about your talent community. And that's not right. And I think what happens is as we talked about before, look, your social channels are tough to maintain. People don't stick around on them for very long. You are not your consumer brand. Nobody really wants to sign up for your talent social channels because they're going to get spammed and they're telling the world effectively that they're looking for a job and they're going to leave it anyway in a couple months once they found a job, and it's not very effective, it's not very useful, and we're going to talk about that next week. But instead, you could be focusing on, once you get their interest, instead of having to worry about how many times do I have to tweet a day and how many times do I have to Facebook a day and how many times do I have to push on my Glassdoor and my LinkedIn, which are all valid strategies and all things you have to concern yourself with on some level, we forget about the email side. I know that a lot of people I've worked with, they want to build a lot of content and they want to build them into pages and then they think they're done. And that's crazy. And I think once you've built content, once you've told stories, whether they're for social or for web pages or whatever, if you're not re-leveraging that stuff for email, you're missing out completely. So let's talk about talent communities. So for my mind, they come in about 3 different flavors. None of them are particularly effective, and they come in versions of easiest to hardest. So the easiest one is the quote-unquote talent community, which effectively just says, I'm interested in this kind of job in this kind of location. Email me when they show up, which, yeah, I guess. You've got someone who you've engaged, you spent some money attracting, you've brought them into the site, they've looked around a little bit, they've decided they like you enough to put you into their consideration set, and they're going to click the link that says, yes, I'd like alerts when things happen. I'd like to know when there's a job here, because there's no job here for me to apply for, so let me know when that's happening. Sure, that works. And the nice part is that software makes that super easy. You plug that into your website and you pretty much don't have to do a darn thing after that. You just have to make sure your template's nice and clean and it just kind of runs. The problem with that is you are delivering information that is so easy to find. I mean, literally, you are spending money other places to push it to them via social and job boards and your website and all this other stuff. You're already spending money pushing it. Why would you invest in a tool that just duplicates all that work in an email format? Well, the answer is obvious. The answer is simple. It's because it's easy. It's because it's safe, because the job descriptions are already approved and you don't have to worry about approval processes or getting somebody to sign off on content and stories and all that stuff. You just have to let it, it's a set it and forget it kind of model. And there's definitely an inverse rule here. The harder it is to do something, the easier it is to do something, the less you're going to get out of it. You're just because it's easy doesn't mean that it's exciting and useful and valuable. It's got to have it's going to take a little work. On top of which, your ZipRecruiters and your JobFoxes and, all the other companies that are there to try and figure out how do I make this process more granular and cross-platform? Who cares about signing up for your company's alerts when they're going to sign up for some tool that's going to aggregate all this stuff? Glassdoor sends me alerts. Indeed sends me alerts. I can have LinkedIn send me alerts. I can have everybody and their dog send me alerts about your job. What's so special about signing up for yours? To which you'll say, okay, great. I guess I'll turn that off. I mean, obviously you're not going to, but I'm not trying to be facile here, but this is a podcast. This isn't the most exciting programming you've ever had, but at least, we can have a little argument here. You're not going to turn off, but why would you bother having it if all those other channels do it? And the reasoning for that is because it's yours. It's because at the part that really works for you, whether you know it or not, is not the part where you push out jobs to people who've raised their hand, though that's nice. The part that you have access to, the real valuable part, is the fact that you have an email address, a location, and a job career area attached to them. That's the money. That's where the fun stuff is. Once you know that about someone, so think about Facebook. Think about every time you've done a Facebook campaign, and I keep going back to Facebook. I apologize. No, they're not paying or sponsoring this podcast, and no, I won't accept it. No, Mark, please put that checkbook back. No, Mr. Zuckerberg, please, I can't accept that money. Please keep the sweatshirt on. When you're doing a Facebook thing, you're trying to reach truckers, you're trying to reach nurses, you're trying to reach accountants or IT specialists or whatever you're trying to reach. You're going to drop in an age range, you're going to drop in a location, some very, 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 very simple demographic stuff, but you're also going to try and figure out, okay, what is the interest that an accountant might have? Because I'm pretty sure moving numbers from one column to another is not something you can call a hobby or an interest. People don't put all their information in Facebook. So we have to, on the social side, the social promotion side, we're like ripping through tea leaves trying to figure out what kind of qualities and traits and criteria you can use inside of Facebook and Twitter and all these other channels to kind of figure out, I've reached the accountants. Because it's hard. Remember, that's not what people are on Facebook for. They're not there to say, hey, I'm an accountant, get me a job, or hey, I'm an accountant, I'm looking for work. That's not what Facebook's for. If you're not a cat meme or a picture of a baby or a political argument, what are you on Facebook for? That's it. So remember, we're using Facebook, we're bending Facebook in a way that is not meant to be. Yes, we're tapping in all this very interesting interest data, like, they're interested in Breaking Bad and magicians and the OA show on Netflix that, some people are talking about a lot. I don't know. What does that have to do with accountants? How do you know you're reaching accountants? You don't. You just don't. But here in your CRM, whatever shape that's in, you've got an email address and someone who said, yes, I'm in Pittsburgh. And congratulations, Pittsburgh. Good win. I'm in Pittsburgh and I'm an accountant. Who cares what TV shows you watch? Who cares what movies you like? Who cares if you like cats or dogs? Nobody cares. This is a very, this is a bit more transactional than, that sort of thing. And you have that information. They've raised their hand. They've volunteered that information to you. What are you going to do with it? Just send them more of the same stuff they can get everywhere else? Wrong. Okay, so that's the easiest kind of talent community. And of course, that kind of talent community, and I'm literally making air quotes here and bunny ears, is that what part of that isn't even remotely a community? It's not even remotely a community. Community is one of those words that we tack onto those things to make it sound more interesting and more complex, more elevated than it really is, because it's really not. It's just a very simple matching, emailing script somewhere. That's all it's doing. Okay, so that's version 1. Version 2 is a bit more complex. Version 2 says, okay, you're collecting that same information, an email address, a location, a career area, and rather than automatically just hitting them when a new job shows up, which if you're in a big company can be a fairly steady state of spam, if you say, hey, I'm interested in accounting in Cincinnati, and you're a massive company like a P&G who is super massive in Cincinnati, not that I'm picking on them, I'm just in my mind here, you're going to get jobs from accounting jobs all day, every day. But not everyone you're going to apply for. Some are going to be very high level. Some of them are going to be a little more technical. Some of them are going to require experience with healthcare. Some of them are, I don't know. There's going to be a lot of different variations of accounting jobs. If you try and pretend that all accounting jobs are effectively the same, I'm going to point you to an accounting podcast, I'm sure, that will beat the snot out of you, because they will tell you all the different ways that that's not right. So you're still spamming them. You're still sending them stuff they don't want. So, okay. So you're not doing that. But instead you could say, look, you're an accountant and you're in Cincinnati. We're in Cincinnati, right? Yeah. Here's why accountants work for us. Here's what's going on. Here's what one of our accountants did. You're not necessarily selling a job, because can we please be fair for a minute? Can we please be honest with ourselves? Nobody has a problem finding the job. No one is hiding their jobs. With a few exceptions at the executive level, or a handful of companies that are being super, super secret about stuff. Does anybody not post their jobs on a website that isn't getting scraped by a million different websites and put on, job boards and places like that? Are we treating job listings and openings like they're some sort of precious, rare commodity? And they're not. We're making a million of them every day. We're bending over backwards to make more, so stop it. So instead of pushing and relying on this quote-unquote rare commodity that is the job description, which is not rare at all, you have to rely on something different. And what you're really going to rely on here is relying on the brand, and a very specific kind of brand. You're going to rely, in this case, on the accountant brand of P&G. And again, sorry to pick on you guys. Lovely products. No sponsorship. I can't even make a Mark Zuckerberg put down your checkbook joke there. But, talk about how accounting is used. Does accounting do anything different at P&G? Do they do anything special? What is the life like? Why would accountant pick P&G over another company? What are some places where accountants have been in the news? Talk about how they've done something interesting. Just send them occasional links. This is, if you're going back to a long tail sales cycle email marketing tool, which, by the way, is what all your talent communities are for the most part, and you were doing on this consumer side and a B2B side, you'd say, look, I know that there's a 6-month sales cycle, and all I got to do is keep this lead warm. I got to nurture it like a little baby egg. I don't have to do much. I just have to let them know that I'm still here, let them know that I have information for them. The second they're ready, I'm here for them. But just kind of remind them, just to say just enough top of mind that they don't forget about me, and 3 months later they go, oh, where was that place that really cared about accountants? And they forget who you are, and they're applying to someplace else. That's really what you got to be doing. You don't have to send them an email every 3 days. You don't have to send them an email every week. You don't have to send them a newsletter worth of information, a metric ton worth of stories every day. You just have to keep them warm. And that might be every 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending on the kind of jobs. And again, the longer the sales cycle, the slower the cadence you can be. If you're talking about people who are doing entry-level jobs and recent graduate jobs, hit them every 2 or 3 days, because that turnaround time is zip. You're talking about somebody a little closer to a director or VP executive level, that takes more time, so don't feel the need to spam them. Take it every 2 weeks. Remind them that you're there. Offer them a reason to show up, a reason to read. You're not selling them. So remember, they tell people when you're building a resume never gets you the job. The job of a resume is to get you the phone interview. The job of the phone interview is to get you the interview. The job of the interview is to get the job. That's the process. The problem is we try to treat these pieces of content like they're trying to sell the job. And it's like, no. Oh, no. The job description will do that at the very, very, very end. They will decide if something they can do, and you just build the case slowly and surely through a lot of different channels and a lot of different means of why you should consider this job, right? That's the process. Don't try and jump 14 steps at once. You can't go from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel in one step. You have to take it step by step. You have to do it slowly. So just keep that lead warm. Tell them some stories. Grab some stuff off your site. Grab some news. Grab a couple of quotes. Hey, we were mentioning Glassdoor. Somebody said that. Isn't that a cool one? Hey, somebody said something really nice. One of our employees said something really nice about us on Glassdoor. Here's the snippet. That's all. Oh my goodness. How hard is that? How hard is that? Now, the problem with that, to be honest, the hard part is that you have to do it for accountants and for marketers and for logistics and for administration and for Picket. Just go, anybody you have that area. But again, you're going to develop strategies around career areas and career career stages. You're going to talk to entry-level people and recent graduates, very different than you talk to VPs and executives. So go ahead and develop strategies. You build a matrix, you map out all the career areas on one side and all the career stages on the other, and you just say, look, I'm going to have a very slow cadence for each one of these groups. Once you set that up, and you can fill those buckets with relatively not fresh information. So if I don't know, well, I can't go to P&G. Everybody knows P&G. So let's just say I'm new to Cincy, and I don't realize the depth to which Cincinnati and P&G are married to the and work together and are so connected. And I move to Cincinnati, or I'm thinking about moving to Cincinnati, and I'll take some accounting information from P&G. Just getting stories. They might be 2 years old. I don't know. How would I know? Why would I care? It's not like they have an expiration date. They're not bananas. They're not going to rot on me in the bag. You gotta, if it's interesting stories, if it's still true, send it. I don't care if that story is 5 years old. They up until a year and a half ago when they broke up, HP was still telling the stories about the two guys in the shed. That's an old story. That is mythology kind of level story. That is an old story. They still told it. It was still part of who they were. It was still a true story for them, which is the only criteria you need. Okay, so that's version 2 of your talent community. More of a talent pool, more of a CRM newslettery kind of model, which I think is valid. I think from a cost standpoint, not to spoil it out for you, I think this is from a cost versus effectiveness model. This is where most companies want to be. You want to just pick the career areas and the jobs and the area, the places you need to focus. Don't spread the peanut butter equally all across the board because you can or because you think you should. You shouldn't. Obviously, some companies, accountants, you hire once every 2 years. Okay, leave them off the board. Some companies you hire accountants every 2 weeks. Yeah, you need to talk to accountants. That's a thing. So that's version 2. Version 3 is something trying to be akin to a true community. Now, what the heck is a community? Well, as we are sneaking up on Community Managers Appreciation Day, I think it's in a month or two, communities are two-way. Communities are all about two-way. I think that's the thing that differentiates them from anything else. They're about two-way conversation. And everything we've talked to up until now, aside from the opportunity in which the prospect raises their hand and says, here's my email address, all information from the prospect to you has ceased. It is done. It is nil. It is no more. It has ceased to be. And now it's a Python sketch. And that's fine because we know, having lived in our social channels, that opening up the door to commentary and feedback is not always the most fun part. How many of you have had frantic Glassdoor conversations because of an unpleasant review? And what do you do? Someone finally up top realized what your score was, and then they went, "I'm sorry, my approval rating is what? What?" Yeah, feedback is kind of tough. So deal with it. So you can't ignore it. It's just because, in fact, you can ignore it, I guess. But if you ignore it, it doesn't mean it's not there anymore. It just means you're ignoring it, and it's gonna fester and grow like a tooth you haven't fixed. So if you're going to invest in two-way conversation, true community, you really have to invest. And this is the most complex and hardest to do, and frankly, the most expensive tool or model of talent pooling and community, whatever you want to call it, to do right, or even to do it all. Because what are you going to do? Open up a forum and say, hey, accountants, here, go for it. Who's showing up to that? I mean, really, who is showing up? Who is so bored that they're going to show up to your forum? Are you feeding that forum with information and delightful stories? Are they stories you can't find anywhere else? Okay, that's a start. You know what the cost is for developing stories that can't be found anywhere else is? Yes, you do. It's not cheap. You're going to do one for accountants. You're going to do one for administrators. You got to do one for IT. You got to do one for marketing. You got to do one from. Yeah, have fun. Yeah, you're going to hire yourself a tiny little army of people just moderating and seeding that community for the year, and you're going to turn around and you can see if 27 people signed in, or 27 people have created accounts that have been active in the last month, and no, that's not going to work. It's really hard to do. I mean, it really is really hard to do, especially when you attach that word community. And I think what the problem really is that by attaching the word community, we've elevated the model such to the point that none of us can truly reach it. We know how expensive it is to hire the people to manage and seed those channels with custom content and moderate things and remind people what the rules are. And it's hard. I suggested this years ago for Bucky Badger, a Wisconsin alumni. I said, look, there's no more, these are Badger fans. They're rabid. Literally, not literally. Figuratively, thank you, I know. But they're Badgers, and it's a pun. Come on, play with me. It's early. The coffee is still kicking in. Speaking of which. But frankly, the game of setting up a community that's branded and building around it and seeding it with information and encouraging people to, it's a solid year just to get a critical mass of people to show up. The reason you have Community Manager Day is because that's a tough gig. That is a rough job. It is a thankless job, and it's hard to measure, and it's hard to kind of make sure you know what you're doing. It's one of those jobs where you only notice the job when things go wrong, except for the 99% of the time when things go right, you don't even notice that they're there. It's tough. It is absolutely tough, and to manage that for talent is tough. Are you going to have your recruiters there? Can you find a way to put your recruiters there? The more you kind of dig up this, and the more we try to say we need to make a talent community, the more you're setting yourself up to fail, right? Which is, I think, why ultimately everybody lands on the first models. Because, well, if we can't succeed wildly, let's just do the bare minimum and move along. Because, again, set it, forget it has a nice little ring to it, right? It just doesn't rhyme. It's also, I can forget about it. I've got a million other things I can worry about. Great. I can forget about this thing. So if those are the three models, and again, I spoil it. I told you the second one's probably the most effective and most efficient because it's giving people something they wouldn't normally get elsewhere, or at least isn't so obviously easy to find that they're not being smacked in the face with it every 20 minutes, every time they turn around on a job board. This is useful. And I think the nice part about this ultimately is, yes, you can cannibalize existing content. Frankly, if you've got stories that you're writing for your website or your blog or whatever, don't take the whole story and email it to somebody. That would be dumb. You take the first paragraph in a headline and you stick it in an email. And then you get the wonderful copywriter or inbound marketer or whoever it is that wrote the copy for that text. You say, I need you to write me a commercial for this email. I need you to say, give me a commercial for this story. So I'm going to write a line or someone's going to write a line or two above that text to get someone excited about the story. So it's a story about an accountants, and they discovered a triple entry bookkeeping. Yeah, that's not legal. Anyway, they did. So they invented triple entry bookkeeping, and they presented it at a conference for the first time, and there was a pretty good response. Okay, you and I are probably not accountants. You and I find this incredibly boring. That's fine. That's not for us. What accountants think about what we do is incredibly insane, and that's fine. Different strokes, etc., etc. So you write a story. Somebody writes a story about attending this conference and how well it was received. And it's a really good article. It's got some quotes. It's got some good pictures in it. You even, got some support from the conference at which you spoke, who said, yeah, we had great feedback from the results of the surveys and blah, 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 blah. It was one of the most tweeted about events in the conference. Great quotes, by the way. Get those. Stick them in the site. This is a great story. This is a race for even non-accountants to be like, oh, wow, this is a company that's doing something. Now, you're either going to normally grab the entire story, stick it in an email, and effectively tell people, no, please don't come to my site. I've given you everything you wanted. Bye. Which is an opportunity lost. You want to make sure you get them to the site, because once you get them to the site, they get to see more stories, they get to see more jobs, they get to engage with the brand, all the wonderful things you are being paid to make happen. So don't do that. So you just want to give a snippet. You want to give enough of a reason for someone to click on the link and come to your site and read that story. Not to the homepage, but to the story, right? Okay. you need to make a commercial. You need to make a, why is this story exciting? When you look at a trailer for a movie, they don't tell you the plot. Or like, oh, usually they shouldn't. When they do, isn't that the worst? Maybe they give you one or two good jokes. Hopefully it's not all the jokes. They give you a reason to go to the movie. It's a commercial for the movie. That's it. Hey, look, it's a famous person. Hey, look, that person's kissing another famous person. Oh, look, there's a famous person playing the big baddie. Okay, explosion, 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 wisecrack joke, title credits, let's go to the movies. That's a trailer, that's a commercial. So take that same model and apply it to your email. Take the story, take an incredibly interesting quote, pull it out of context such that it makes people go, what does that mean? What happened there? You want to get the quote from the story that says this was the most tweeted session at the conference. That the title becomes, can you guess what the most tweeted session at this conference was? We can tell you and give you all the details. That's a commercial. That's engaging and driving some questioning and interest in, it's a mystery. Ooh, I want to click on that link. That's how you do email. You know how I know? Because that's how you do social. That's how you're doing Twitter. That's how you're doing Facebook. That's how you should be doing all your content, anything that drives people to your content, your ads, everything. It's not about here's a job where you make da-da-da-da-da. It's about here's how you change your life, right? Okay, here's a story about how you had a great accounting session at a conference. The story is the story. The commercial is you won't believe what we discovered when we presented at this conference. Something like that. That's the commercial. And that's your newsletter. That's your talent pool community thingy tooly. That's what's going to get people to go, this is a company that's doing something interesting. This is a company willing to remind me that they care about their people. Whatever your brand is, whatever your employer brand is, whatever the core pillars are, whatever the motivations are, you just, you rely on that. You align everything to it like you're supposed to do everything. Come on, we're professionals. And that's what you do. And I only bring this up because you're not thinking about your talent community. You're so focused on Facebook and Snapchat and all these channels. And the mantra is you should never build property on land that you rent. And your Facebook audience is rented audience. They're not your audience. They're Facebook audience. Facebook owns them. The second Facebook says you're not allowed to touch them, they flip a switch and you're gone. Right? 5 years ago, 8 years ago, you could reach 80, 100% of your audience for free. What's it, 1 to 3? You think that's by a mistake? You think that's by accident? No, Facebook owns that. Facebook is charging you a tax to reach them. And, and I'm thinking back to a Robin Hood kind of feudal lord where, okay, I got to go fight a war someplace else. That means I got to tax my peasants some more. That's how Facebook treats you. And that's how they're always going to treat you. Again, sorry, Mark. Sorry. It's true. It's true. And that's all the social channels. That's all of them. However, an email list you own. Yours. You want to dedupe it, clean it, get it ready? Great. You want to match it up. You want to use it on Facebook? Great. Facebook has an email matching tool, right? So everybody you have an email address you can reach on Facebook. Once you do that, then you can remarket. Once you do that, once you connect. It's all connected, but it starts by something you own, and that's called an email address. Now I know I'm not telling tales out of school here, and I'm not going to name names, but it's a massive, 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 massive company who you know the name of, and your parents know the name of, and your children probably know the name of. They've collected a quarter of a million email addresses, and they've never used them. Yeah, they're just sitting there. Some of those email addresses are 5 and 6 years old, and I think that's actually what slows them down. At least that's what they tell me. They say, we can't because some of those email addresses are old. So what? Send them an email saying, hey, we want to let you know about stories about our company. Would you like to learn more? Let them opt in, or just say, "Look, you jumped in and you said you were Bob and you were from St. Louis and you're interested in marketing. Great, we're going to start sending you marketing stories. You've already opted in. I'll let you opt out whenever you want. But my hope is I write stories so compelling and interesting that you stick around or that you share them." That's the trick. It's all about the email address, and trust me, this is conversations that are happening all across all the marketing channels, inbound, outbound, all this stuff, lead generation. It all centers on the email address. And what you may not realize is that you are potentially sitting on a pot of gold, a huge pile of email addresses. Use them. Simple as that. So, thanks for listening. As always, if you have questions or comments, you can tweet me tweet at The War for Talent. That's where I is. Almost all the time. You can also go to the website, thetalentcast.com, and I think there was an issue with anybody sending feedback. I think that's all fixed. You can leave reviews on iTunes and Android Play or whatever those things are. Or frankly, you can just tell a friend. Tell a professional friend about this podcast. We love it. If you have questions, if you have ideas, if you have problems you'd like me to solve, or at least challenges you'd like me to face, hey, that sounds like a lot of fun. Otherwise, I think I haven't decided what next week is. So thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.
The world's best-known investor and Wall Street expert Warren Buffett once said, "Wall Street is the only place that people ride to in a Rolls-Royce to get advice from those who take the subway." Mr. Buffett's quote is remarkably accurate, but how many people would rather receive advice from him than someone simply guessing? Welcome to Buy, Hold, Sell, your single source for Wall Street knowledge and profitable guidance. Please join me, Todd Schoenberger, and fellow trader Tobin Smith, as well as host Veronica Dudo, for a podcast known to move the needle for investors. Tobin and I are seasoned Wall Street executives with deep investment experience, and we are prepared to share our advice to those who choose to listen. Download Buy, Hold, Sell today on the Evergreen Podcast Network or your favorite podcast channel.